Hello and welcome. We are glad to be back again this week and glad that Imar is able to be with us again this week, which makes it taking the journey together again. And I really like that. So, I am Sharon or Zare, and I'm here with Imar or Craig, and we are happy to still be able to do this. Last week we talked about avoidance, but before we get into that, the continuation of it anyway, I want to read to you the um, our belief statement for taking the journey together. It says, "We are going to relate. It doesn't matter what your mother says, your father says, your children, or even what Jesus says. We are going to relate. At taking the journey together, we believe in relating in a balanced manner. Balanced relationships are the ones that are entered into as friends first and lovers second, but has both aspects in each partner." And so that's what we believe, and that's what we focus on, having relationships that start off as friendships in order to build it into a loving and healthy and thriving relationship. And we give pointers and guides, and we talk about spiritual principles and other principles that will help you. Excuse me, I've been talking a lot today. That will help you move through the different obstacles or the different things that come up in relationships, because relationships are not easy. You always have to work on them. And those of you who say, oh, anybody can do that, no. If that were the case, there would be no divorces. And that's what we're trying to make sure that we have an understanding of.
Exactly. I'm still a little bit underneath the weather. Not as how can I say it as well as I would like to be, but hopefully you guys can still hear me. Um, we're so glad to be back again. And Sharon, I know before we start into the avoidance, of course there'll be some things that you can go ahead and avoid for me because I'm just not as peaked as I should when it comes to my talking spell. But I know you'll beautifully be able to handle that. Why don't we start before our guests come in and
But just as a heads up,
mm-hmm,
if I start rambling, because you know I do that sometimes,
mm-hmm.
don't avoid then. Just tell me, slow down or slow your roll.
Okay. I don't know what that means,
Well,
but
you know I
sure.
ramble sometimes when I
Well,
get to
you're
talking.
rambling right now, then how's that?
So I
Go
will
ahead
slow
with your
down right
roll.
now. Okay. Um, so we are going to kind of start off by recapping what we talked about last week for those of you who may have missed last week, um, and continue on with the understanding of what it is to avoid and how to avoid avoiding.
Mhm.
And one of the things that came up was the more we talked about it and the more we focused on avoidance last week, the more I realized that it is something that is very uh, prevalent with me. It's one of those things that I do quite often unintentionally, but I do it anyway. And some of it is brought to my attention. Well, why didn't you say that before? And my answer is, I don't know. But the real reality is, it was simple avoidance. And there's nothing simple about avoidance, but that is what it was. I was simply avoiding something or saying something because of several things, like keeping from hurting your feelings, or keeping from bringing things up that were triggers, or not having things come up that I fear will cause a conflict. I use avoidance a lot because I have issues with conflict. I don't like conflict. Um, and so I try to avoid a lot to keep that down. But and that's my fear. And quite often, when I have a fear of something is going to cause a conflict, what ends up happening is talking about it doesn't cause the conflict, but not talking about it ends up causing the conflict. So it's kind of like in this uh, mental loop, this emotional loop that only makes things worse. And so avoidance is one of those things that it doesn't make things better. And we also figured out that it came from um, my childhood.
Mm,
The fact that, there were a lot of things that weren't said, there were a lot of questions that weren't asked, there were a lot of questions that weren't answered. And most of the questions that weren't answered, I don't know if they would have been or not, but they weren't asked in the first place. And
yeah,
so, it was a lot of everybody moving around, loving everybody, but not being open with everybody. And so that's where much of my ability, or and I call it an ability to avoid, because it's one of those things that I just kind of I kind of deal with, and have been dealing with, and have been doing it simply because it's something that's always been there, and I didn't recognize it as, first of all, as being there, and second of all, it didn't have a name, and third, it was not an issue because I grew up and it wasn't an issue because everybody was doing it.
yeah. So that means your family members avoided by talking about not the avoidance in the first place. So that's the
Exactly.
reason why I think Dr.
Exactly.
Fraser brought it up well, that we present in our relationships many things that our first parental guides, being
Hmm.
our mother and fathers, do. So we know your mother and probably mother's mother avoided that conversation because of the dad situation being in that you were part of what they call what's that kind of family that we have,
Blended.
blended family. So no one really wanted to talk about it. So you avoided the issue.
And but there were other things too,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and
So you just grew up doing the same thing. That's the point he was
exactly,
making.
exactly. And so, and there are probably a lot of other people who did the same thing, who grew up in the same type of situation, who, for other reasons, or for the same reasons. But the fact is, it doesn't matter how you grew up, and the fact that that was a part of your growing up. What matters is when you start realizing it and you start working towards healing from it, so that
Exactly.
it is no longer a part of your relationship. And in addition to that, having that realization that it can ruin your relationship.
Let's go to the video that kind of start things out. We were just talking about how we're going to start using videos that have to do with real controversial issues for those who are single wanting to get married or those who are married and are having issues. And we want to always start staying on the cutting edge when it comes to relationship concerns and problems, and then come up with our usual, hopefully, solutions that provide you a balanced way of how you can handle them. But can't do it unless you want the cutting edge. So we're going to start doing some videos. We're going to go back to the video that we did before and let her talk a little bit about this very issue that has to do with avoidance. See if I can get it going here. Is it right here?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll put it down here. Here it goes. Here we go.
Come here, baby. Let me talk to you. Just think about it. Whenever you're reluctant to actually engage in discussions about feelings, you're creating emotional distance. Or whenever you withdraw from conflict, if your go to in a crisis or in a vulnerable moment is to retreat, what do you think is happening? You're destabilizing the foundation of your relationship. And so, in that sense, how can they trust you? And if they don't trust you, how can they feel secure emotionally? If they don't feel secure emotionally, if they feel like they're the ones who are doing most of the work when it's a fight or a conflict, it's just simply them, that makes them feel lonely. And if you're going to retreat and run away, that's going to make them feel abandoned. And in this sense, you can't say that they're just imagining this because it's real. It's actually happening in the now. There's proof that you run whenever there needs to be a vulnerable moment or anything related to feelings. So, for that person who's actually seeking that connection, your avoidance is making them feel lonely. And that feels very one sided. It makes for a very lonely, one sided relationship. So, then this creates an emotional gap. You have one person who is seeking reassurance because you may be the person who's invalidating them, and they're constantly pursuing you, which is causing you to run away. Do you see how this is creating conflict and chaos? Then we have this pursue withdrawal cycle that's full of resentment and tension and distress. The one thing you don't want to do is signal that you don't value that relationship, but your avoidant tendencies typically do. And it's that perception that intensifies those feelings of abandonment. Think about a person having to navigate alone, solve alone, process alone, feel alone, regulate alone. Think about that. That's kind of what you're making them do. Your avoidant behaviors and tendencies protect you, but they're not protecting your relationship. Wish you all the best. Happy, healthy relationships. Bye, babies.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that I was just talking about is
Mm-hmm.
when you avoid for your own protection,
Mm-hmm.
but you leave everything else unprotected. You leave your partner unprotected, you leave your relationship unprotected, you leave innocent people around you unprotected because sometimes the thing that you're avoiding is something that they said or something that they did, and that doesn't help. It infiltrates your relationship in a negative manner.
Okay. Let's bring in our guest. She's almost going to be one of our co-hosts here real soon, since we see her more often.
Yes,
Hello.
How are you guys?
we are doing well. And you?
I'm better now that I'm on.
Better now that you're what?
On?
Oh,
Oh, good,
okay.
You
good,
guys?
good. Well, we're very glad to hear that from that end. And we're especially glad that you didn't avoid today.
I'm not an avoider
Okay. You said that so quickly, like I threw a rock and heard a cat go meow.
Yeah.
because I'm not an avoider. That's me not avoiding that.
Okay. See, that was my statement also. I'm not avoiding. I'm not avoiding. I was not avoiding the things that I was comfortable with, but there was still things that I was avoiding in the relationship. And I'm still avoiding some things in the relationship, but I don't know them until they come up.
Exactly.
And that's one of those things that I'm making myself become more aware of. You know, am I avoiding being completely honest? Am I avoiding and quite often it's innocent, to me it's innocent. It's just, it wasn't a big deal. I didn't see any reason to talk about it, that type of thing.
Mhm.
But it turns out to be a big deal to him, something that he really wanted to know and would have appreciated. So,
I've been told I'm too honest. I guess I hurt feelings with honesty. Because I don't believe in um keeping things that's on my mind, even if it's something that I know that most people would lie about or would keep to themselves for fear of insulting or for whatever outcome could happen. I don't avoid the outcome almost intentionally because of my I think I care more about people or my relationship knowing that I'm honest. So I think I'm like overly honest to show, hey, I'm being honest about things that most people wouldn't be honest about. So I'm honest.
Hmm.
You know?
So, on the honest side, keeping the honor system here, where is that
well then,
Weldon?
He
Uh,
is at work.
ah, so he's what was he doing? Truck.
truck driving.
Yes, yes.
Right now he
Bless
uh
you.
thank you. He is a jockey truck driver for Home Depot, and today is his official first day from 5 to 5.
Wow. All
Five to
right.
five.
5 to 5, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Does he do 4 days?
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah,
Well, we wish him all luck and blessings, and that he comes back safely too at the same time.
Yes, sir.
definitely.
And quite frankly, I'll be honest with you. I do not think this young lady is a perpetual or habitual avoidance
Avoider.
kind of
Yeah.
person. I really don't think so. From that end, yet we know some people who are like that. Many times people want to avoid them,
That's for sure.
and that
But yeah,
can be a
yes,
problem.
I I
Okay.
um I receive avoidance a lot. I'm an irritating digger, is what I'm told.
Please don't use that
She
word
said
on the show.
digger.
She said what?
Digger.
Digger.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something else.
I
I
know.
apologize.
Yeah,
Just
I dig
okay.
constantly. I want to know. I want to understand. I want you to know. I want you to understand what's wrong. I probably don't give the space needed sometimes.
Don't give people time to process what you're digging for.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
do now. I know for a fact I didn't.
Mm. You're going in and out to basically while you're driving. So that's probably the reason why I thought you used the N word that actually Sharon hates. But anyway, that's what I thought
Despise is
it.
more of is a
That's
better
what I thought
word.
you said. So that's the reason why I didn't want to avoid it. But anyway, so let's move right into now taking the journey when it comes to our lesson basics, as we were talking about for the several underlying reasons why we avoid in relationships, whether it's our personal mate relationships or just in life. Sharon already spoke about in life for her. It starts, as it many times starts with our parents, how they, related to one another or didn't relate to one another. And we carry on that same kind of cycle with us and how we relate to one another in our relationships.
It's a learned behavior
Mhm.
that we don't even know is a behavior quite often.
Exactly. So we want to get into those underlining reasons because many times when our parents did it, we don't even know why they did it. They didn't talk about it because they're avoiding it since we're talking about avoidance. So we don't know why they did that. It's just like it is what it is. And we
There,
grow up
there,
going the same way.
there's sometimes parents who divorce, and you ask the adult children, or yeah, the adult children, why did your parents divorce? And as adults, they say, I don't know. What did they tell you was the reason? They didn't. Those are things that your children need to know because they will grow up thinking they don't need to pass things on to their children either. And that cycle just continues.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they may think that if something did bad going on there because of feelings, then we don't want to pass on
Hmm.
those bad things, which is fine. But they may not be knowing they're already operating
Yes.
indirectly, subconsciously, or consciously with those same kind of traits
Hmm.
that is carrying on. They have not the slightest idea because of the avoidance.
Right.
And so getting that clarity through your parents, if you can, helps clear up some things that you are consciously, unconsciously doing so you don't pass it on to your
Hmm.
kids. So one of the things we went through the first time was what?
Fear of conflict. We talked about the fear of conflict. So you don't want to say certain things because and that was one of my issues. I don't like conflict. Conflict has always bothered me since I was a child. It even bothered me when I couldn't tell the difference between horseplay and actual fighting because I never saw it. And so everything looked the same to me. And because of that, I got this fear of, when people come together in a sense that they're not comfortable with each other, and I can sense that, then there's going to be conflict and it's going to be bad, and I don't want to be around it. And so, to say something bad to somebody, say something horrible to somebody, say something that they don't want to deal with, there's always that option or that chance that there's going to be conflict. And so I learned just not to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. We
That
have that. Go ahead.
that reminds me of when she said horseplay and real fighting. It just made me think about passion and anger. How sometimes conflict occurs when people misunderstand the difference between somebody just being passionate and kind of, and then
Hmm.
anger. That's just what it made me think about.
Yes.
Exactly. Sometimes we have, like for us males, there's a lot of stereotypes for black men, males.
Hmm.
If we deliver something very passionate and our voice raises, immediately there's this fear that
You're
comes in,
angry.
and we're angry. You find a lot of black males, especially in the media, especially
Mhm.
actors, where many of them had to change their voice and
Yes.
get their voice sounding higher, especially if they're very big. And
And speak softly.
exactly, otherwise they will be taken as being intimidating, and people get fearful. I find myself, when I was in the condition I am, that many times if I get very passionate when I speak, people will think about it as being me being angry, angry
Hmm.
black male, and
Yes.
they get intimidated. And I'm talking about even on black folks,
Yes.
black women and black men will do the same thing.
Black
Exactly.
men, black women deal with that too. Angry black woman.
Mm-hmm.
Ever heard that term? And
Oh,
Of
you,
too
course,
many
it,
times.
my
it's
mom
usually
was like,
it's usually a very passionate black woman being perceived as angry,
yeah,
and that's often in conflict where it's not really a conflict, but it's seen as
mm-hmm.
conflict because the other person's perceiving my passion as anger, and so now we're
Mm-hmm.
conflicting because they're responding to me in a conflicting way instead of understanding I'm just passionate and I really care about what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Now we're in conflict when we weren't before.
Right. Right. They've raised the bar,
Yeah,
and that's what that conflict will do, or that fear of conflict will do. And it also comes down to just not understanding people and the different natures of people.
yeah, different
You know,
cultures
we
of
far
people.
exactly, we far too often want to have people meet us where we are, but we don't feel like we need to meet them where they are. And so it's like, as long as you're outside my comfort zone, I don't care if you're comfortable or not, I'm uncomfortable. And so that's all that matters, and something is wrong with you.
Yeah,
And that's not right. And then people bring that into their relationships also.
exactly.
Those same fears.
And then sometimes we just have to be careful because sometimes we're just damn angry,
Yes.
and our anger brings out toxicity, and other people can feel that toxicity. It doesn't make a difference what color or culture you are. Anger is anger, rage is
Hmm.
rage, and people can feel that. And if they feel that, they can feel intimidated, they can feel uncomfortable. And it doesn't help when stereotypes attach to it and come along with it, angry black man or angry black woman. But we also have to make sure what our motivation is being. Are we being passionate to try to change something? Are we being passionate to really try to solve a particular problem?
Hmm.
Or like sometimes in a relationship, we're just angry, period.
Yeah.
And we may try to think we're hiding the passion and we're not.
Hmm.
And the other person picks up on it and it becomes a bad argument, toxic, abuse, and so on and so
Right.
forth. So we got to be
Right.
careful with that.
Absolutely. Another reason that another underlying reason, that's what I was trying to get to,
Hmm.
for avoidance is the desire to maintain control. Power dynamics. In a case where avoidance can be a way to maintain control in a relationship, by withholding communication, they might be trying to manage the direction or outcome of a situation. So I tell you just enough for you to see things my way, and that's not the whole story.
Hmm.
That's and we see that a lot in children.
Hmm.
They will come in and they will say, you know you will say, why did you get in trouble at school today? Well, so and so did this to me, and I didn't do anything. But when I got tired of it, the teacher turned around and saw me saying something. And the reality is, both of you were involved in it. Your child and the other child were both involved in it. And your child might have been the one that did not let it go when it could have de escalated. But when it comes to you, you're going to get just one side of that story. And so, and I don't know, did that ever happen to you?
My kids?
Uh huh.
My children?
Yes.
All the time, especially when they play mom against dad.
Oh yeah, that too. That too. Playing one parent against the other. Were you that either one of those children?
I don't know if if your mic is off.
Empress,
Your mic is off. Your mic is off.
you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted. Well, we'll go until she turns her
Okay.
mic on because she's muted. This time.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't know she's muted.
No, she doesn't.
Your mic is off.
We, I don't even know that she can hear.
Oh, now we heard you.
There you go. You were muted for a minute.
I don't know if she thinks her phone is on, but we'll move on until she finally get the phone reconnected
Yeah.
again because it does happen
Exactly.
a lot. Hold on, we'll go back there. Hopefully she comes back on.
Yeah.
Are you there? Hello.
No, she's moving. She's on the move.
On the move.
Okay, so we're getting close to time to be able to take a break. So maybe now is a good time to take a
Yeah,
break.
we'll take a break. Once you
Yeah,
go ahead and while we take a break, just page her.
yeah. We'll take a break and give her a chance to get settled back in.
Okay, let me get our first one to go, and we'll be right back.
We'll be back in a minute.
See, that's why I like the rabble. They actually made an excellent point. You women do need to start sharing your husbands. It'll make the world a better place once y'all realize that.
Out of everything they talk about tonight, that is the only thing you remember.
There are 8 billion people on this planet. 6 billion are women, 2 billion are men. So if you do the math, that is 3 women for every man. The scale has to be balanced, and polygamy is the perfect balance.
One man and one woman is all the balance that's needed.
Okay, think about this. If I had 4 women, you be my front woman, right? If I had a side chick, I would have to at least get one for the other side because there's 2 sides. And I would have to have one behind me. That's the backup chick. Just in case one falls off at the side, you always got to have that backup.
I am the only queen in your kingdom. Don't get any ideas, Zoo.
Now, all I'm saying is you should at least think about this.
My God will judge you.
Fun.
Okay. That was an interesting commercial. Real interesting commercial. You right?
Yeah, I don't even know what to think about.
Me
No,
neither.
well, it wasn't a commercial. It was a
What's that?
statement, a viewpoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be a commercial actually, but
Well,
so much for that.
yeah.
Okay. Is she back on?
I
Are you there?
Yeah. So the last thing I heard from you guys was the mother parent playing the parents against each other.
Yeah, exactly. Then you just basically what happened, Sharon?
Well, I at one point your mic was muted, and I think everything was muted, and there was not a thing that you heard. And then we saw you getting out and moving.
And so
You were on the move. So we took a break so that we
Well-
could give you a chance to get settled in.
we got a commercial, so excuse me, we got a break. So real quickly, we're gonna let people know where they can find us, and then we'll get right to you. Looks like you got a guest too right along with you. Go ahead, Sharon.
Yes. You can find us on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. on WRUU, and we are listening. You can, what is it, 107.5?
107.5,
And
yes.
that's every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's a show just like this one, except it is on radio. You will hear us and you will not see us, but that's okay because we still have the same message, but delivered in just a slightly different way because they're both live, and live doesn't happen twice in the same way.
Okay.
You can also reach us at through email at ttjt at takingthejourney-together.com, on Facebook at ttj together. Instagram is taking the J together, or you can call us at 912-421-8862. We're always available. And one other thing that we don't have up there is we would
Hmm.
like to remind you that we are relationship coaches. And if you are in the need for coaching to help stabilize your relationship or keep it in balance, or you just need some uh, uh, something to solidify where you are right now in your relationship, give us a call, text us, or email us, and we will be glad to meet with you and talk with you and see what guidance we can give you. We've done that with several people, and it's very rewarding when that happens.
Exactly, exactly. So it looks like we have someone who's officially not photobombing, but she's actually sitting in on the other side. It's kind of surprised because we didn't know this. It wasn't told us ahead of time. But you know what? If she feels that move to come in, then it must be she just feels that she's got to hear something that we're saying or something we said that moved her to want to be right next door to Empress. And we're very glad to see like that from that end. So tell us who you are, and so other people who are listening can know who you are.
Hi, I'm Lana. I'm Empress roommate, so I was interested in hearing what y'all had to say because I have been in therapy before and been in relationship therapy as well. I'm not currently in a relationship right now, but I think I can always benefit from what other people have to say.
Well, good, good. We're very, very glad about that. We know pretty soon, as we work more with IC Port, we're going to sometime or other go to a nice venue and invite a whole bunch of people who want to come who are single and married. And then we'll just sit down on the stage and kind of talk to them. And at the same time, have them ask questions, come up to the mic, ask questions. And we'll be glad to answer questions as best
No
that we can.
avoidance.
No avoidance, and then be able to help people out, and at least go away with something
Yes.
that they can take with them. So, yeah, okay. Where were
Yes.
we?
Well, I was asking Empress if she had ever been either that child, been that child that did the avoidance by telling just one side of the story, or were you the one that said, "Oh yeah, I started this, and this is why I started this," because she just looked at me funny, and I didn't like the way she looked at me. So take your lumps where they are. You know.
I'm the one that tries to tell the whole story verbatim from exactly how I remember everything. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if I'm right, I'm right. And I let the person that's supposed to be the judger decide what the outcome is. I take my whippings when I was younger, and I took my praise as well. But I've also been the parent that was played. So there's a. Mhm.
Yes. So that was the other part of the question. Have you been that child or been the parent of that child?
Yes. I raised a young lady who's now a young lady. She's 14. Um I raised her from 1 to 10,
Wow.
and she definitely played the parents against each other. All three of us. She played the biological mother when she came into the picture, but for the most part, it was me and her father she played against each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of our kids, at least my children, or excuse me, our children, my first wife, when you have a very strong willed parent and the other parent is not as strong willed, you'll find the children could easily see that imbalance in power. And one of them or both of them, it could be more than one, I don't know how many you have, will take advantage of it when they want to, as children, being self centered many times, get their way.
Yes.
And so they'll use the parent that is the most
Easiest.
easiest one, some people call it
Vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
exactly, to play off the other one or not say anything to the other one to get their way.
Yeah.
From that particular night, know my oldest daughter, who was the strongest willed daughter that people say she's a lot like me. Now she ain't, but she probably is. And she would play my first wife off, her mom off, on me all the time to get her advantage because she knew when it came to me, the buck would start with me, and I had no problem saying no. And that didn't always work out, but many times using her mom, she did get her way. A lot of the reasons is because there was avoidance going on in the relationship. I'll say it again. There was avoidance going on in the relationship. Usually, my first wife was avoiding talking to me much and didn't much say by giving them many times the way. And because of that avoidance that was there, it allowed them to what I call take advantage of that loophole
Mm-hmm.
from that end. So
Yes.
I
it,
can call that loop out right now, the one I was dealing with.
go ahead.
Um, so in this particular case, there was the daddy daughter syndrome
Mm,
where the daddy just was like, anything my baby want type of energy. But I was realizing that there was a, woman to woman or female to female. I was starting to peep the manipulation tactics and the cunningness and the sneaky stuff that little girls tend to do, what people tend to do as they develop. And there was avoidance for me because of being the stepmother.
mm,
I was finding it hard to discipline without conflict and without seeming as if there was hmm because of the relationship between the baby mother and the father. He had a tendency to think that there was some kind of energy from me to the child that didn't. So there was a flashlight.
mm. She
There
glitched.
was
Yeah.
You glitched when you said between
You
you
said
and the father. Then you glitched.
I said I don't know what I said.
There was some energy.
There was an energy between me and the father where the father thought that there was something between me and the daughter that had something to do with how I felt about the mother,
Okay.
but I didn't feel any way about the mother. The mother felt some kind of way about me. And because of that, he had a bias.
Hmm.
Like he had to keep us separate. But I'm the type of person like, you know, that's the mom. Whatever, whatever, whatever. And I'm not dramatic. So as much as she was dramatic, he thought, oh, I can't have these two women beefing. So because of that, he had a flashlight on me as far as tending to his daughter. Just for a little while he had it and then it changed.
Hmm.
But so I was avoiding discipline for her for fear of conflict with him.
mm-hmm.
She played on that loophole and she would start going to him about stuff that she had problems with or that she wanted. And for a little while, he would make the decision regardless of how I felt. And then the tables turned as she got a little older, and he'll be like, go ask baby. Go ask baby. That's me. I'm baby. Go ask baby. Go ask baby. Go ask baby. And so the tables turned there too. But the loophole was me and his relationship, just like you said, on why she was playing. Mhm.
All of those kind of tactics that are tried by our children, and then many times we grow up and doing the exact same thing.
Yes.
We figure we be adults, we're too grown to be told not what to do or what to do. Oh, at the end it says, some people say don't take all that. We're just bringing along with us what we call manipulation. That's all it is. It's just plain manipulation,
Mm.
and that kind of manipulation always is going to have in it the key element of what
Yep.
we're talking about,
Avoidance.
avoidance. It's
Yes.
always going to have that key element,
Yes.
because if you introduce what we call the hot principle, by the way, that's one of our main ingredients in taking the journey, is the
Mhm.
hot principle. And we one day are going to have a hopefully a good workshop on it, probably take a
Yes.
couple of days. But we'll ask you two, what do you two think what hot means? It's a tricky thing here, but what do you think
And
hot
don't avoid
means?
it.
Hot is definitely an acronym.
Hmm.
Number one.
Um,
We want to give your guest a try too. We want to give her a try since she's on right next to you.
okay.
I'm thinking like the touchy. It's a touchy subject,
Okay. That's a noble
Um,
one, people think.
depending upon who it's related to, and like it's the hot topic of the day, like something somebody would try to avoid if
Okay.
possible.
um,
Okay.
I was trying to get more into what HOT would stand for.
Hmm.
You're,
Um,
you're you're close, but we can't tell you now. Come on. Give one guess.
uh, I'm finding it real hard to figure out what H is. So is it an acronym?
Yes,
Yes.
you are correct about that, man.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So H, not hospitality.
Highly operating
Humanity.
temperature.
What?
Well, no, it's not a machine now. It's not a machine language.
No,
Uh,
like your feelings, like your.
honesty.
Oh, that could be.
Uh, shoot.
Hmm.
just tell us when you want to give up. We'll tell you. Sure.
I'm never gonna want to give up. So you have to tell me the a time limit to guess, because
Okay.
Okay.
The time limit is now.
All right. So
all right.
I will tell you what it is. HOT stands for honest, open, and transparent.
Okay.
I
Transparent.
love it. Honest, open, and
Honest,
transparent. I
open, and
say
transparent.
that all the time. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So we have a almost a 3 day workshop on it,
Hmm.
because we go deep into the fact that to have a balanced relationship built on friendship, you have to be and understand the dynamics of being honest,
Open.
open, and transparent. A
Yes.
lot of people, they're not all the same too, by the way, but
Mhm.
when they're all put together, they are a very strong
Hmm.
piece of energy for communications and a balanced, healthy relationship. A lot of people can be honest, and there are a lot of people open. Not many people are transparent, meaning what is your motive operandi, as they say? What is your reason for doing that? And that's very important, that if you're going to have a friendship relationship that's built on that kind of high level energy, almost divine energy,
Hmm.
you have to operate it with honest, open, and transparency. You will find people who are manipulative, they might be very honest. Some people say they're very raw. Oh man, they're very open, but you may not know their motivation at all.
And even with that openness
Hmm.
is often manipulation
Yeah,
because they give you just enough openness
to hang
for
yourself.
Mm,
exactly to
Yeah.
reel you in, and
that goes
then
back, that goes back to when I told y'all earlier that I'm really open and honest.
hmm
That's the transparency in it. I am open and honest, especially about things that most people won't be open and honest about, for the purpose of reciprocity. And
now
that's manipulating in a way.
okay, explain to people who are listening who may not know what you mean by for the purpose of reciprocity.
I'm open and honest so that people see that I'm open and honest about things that most people won't be open and honest about,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can receive that in return.
Okay. All right.
How does that work all the time?
It works for the
Mm,
most part. 90% of the time.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe 85.
It all depends on the other person
It
because
depends on
the other person may not be that way at all.
it depends on the other person and the relationship, but mostly I apply that in relationship. Well, I imply it all the time, but
Hmm.
specifically vulnerable, open, and honesty in a relationship, and that's when it works the most. When
Yeah,
you really, when you're really trying with someone.
Mm-hmm.
exactly. You're hoping that they're playing their cards, and that goes me into a song that was done by older than you guys, somebody Rogers. I can't remember his name, but he had a song about card playing. Know when to fold
Oh,
up,
Kenny
That's
know
Rogers.
when
awesome.
to
I just saw
something,
Kenny
that the
Rogers.
know when to hold.
yeah.
You got to
Yep.
don't count
The
your
gambler.
at the
I don't know.
tables. There's be time enough to count them when the day's end. So basically, he was just talking about in life. Some people who in turn are as you said, open. They will put the cards open. But there's other people who play it like a card game. They like people who open up their cards so that they can see them. And with them having your cards being open, then they have then their way to be able to manipulate and move and
Oh
do things
yeah.
against you or for you, all
Oh
for
no,
the
I'm
sake
not.
of them
I'm
taking
not.
advantage of it.
Yeah, that's
And
not.
so that happens sadly a lot, especially today with this polarization and this winners and losers. And
Mm-hmm.
I got to get mine before I get yours. You'll find a lot of people who love people who are showing their cards so that they can do their thing and not necessarily show theirs in
Yes.
return.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That
Not me
happens.
that way. That's not what I'm aiming for. I just want a transparent, open, and honest relationship.
Good.
So basically, you're doing it by in your opinion or your belief is that you are setting the example.
Right.
I was just going to say, leave an example.
Yeah. This is exactly what I'm doing. I'm letting them know that that's the context of this relationship.
Exactly. Good thing to do. One thing is for sure, wisdom is still a principle of all things. Wisdom in this case, and I'll use that card game, is knowing who are you being an example for, because sometimes wisdom gives you some insight or you feel the vibes, whatever you may want to call it, young folks call it, that this may not be the person that you want to open up that way for because they are playing the game with you and they might want to utilize you to your advantage. But again, if you use principles that are connected in that relationship, balanced relationship, those are the things that you already have checked out. Those are the questions that you already talked about. Those are the things that you did either counseling or one on one with before you get that close relationship as part of your mate. So those things are already gotten over or at least got close to. And both of you are trying to practice the hot principle.
But
Yes.
if you're comfortable with who you are and what you've done, and you do everything to keep your heart pure and your intents pure, then it's really not anything that you can be vulnerable about to anyone. Like there's no way. I personally don't feel like if I'm open and honest with you that you can use that against me in any way because
Oh, there she
I'll
Yeah,
because,
she glitched.
yeah.
because I'll say the same thing to anyone. You know what I'm saying? Like it's no I am who I am with everyone.
So when you are in a relationship and you're in a relationship and you're setting this as the standard, um, if they're not there and you're confronted with the idea of trying to change them because they see it as manipulation, how would you deal with that?
Um hmm, I what ends up happening in that situation is that's something internal with them and how they view things and their perspective, and all I can do is be who I am and hope that that changes their perspective. But like I could say in my in my experience, it ends up them still feeling how they feel, and we part ways. Because at that point, there's nothing I can. If you feel like me being who I am is manipulating, and no matter what I do or show you changes that, then that's something, some self healing you need to do with how you view people and honesty. You don't
Okay.
believe, yeah,
Yeah. And so that kind of brings forth the question that leads us into the next underlying possibility,
Hmm.
which is when you're being open and honest, do you take do you take into consideration that um, people's emotions may get involved?
yes,
Okay, so the next one is, and that's very true, because that's emotion. Some people wear the emotions on their sleeve, as they say, and
really bad.
everything is an emotional experience just waiting to happen.
I don't
Uh,
deal. I don't deal with that really well. That's aggravating. If I'm taking your honesty and your openness, and I'm breathing through, let's say in a relationship, someone is being honest about cheating, and you're letting me know that you cheated. And instead of me, the minute you say you cheated, hoo yeah, instead of me rah rah and acting off of my emotions, I'm listening, I'm breathing through, because now I want to understand what I want to hear everything. Um, if I'm able to do that for you and you're not able to do that for me, that's aggravating. And
okay, so go ahead, go ahead.
I can take the emotions into consideration, but and then I still try to let you know that you're being emotional right now, and I'm trying to be honest with you. It's uncomfortable. This is why most people aren't honest, because they're afraid of the emotions that come out. I want
Hmm.
to respect your emotions, but I want to be honest with you as well. And if I
Okay,
can't get to you after that, then I'm aggravated, and yeah.
okay, okay, and that is understandable, because if you're not accustomed to dealing with emotions and all of that, then sometimes we have to uh, look look at things a different way, because there's some people who will get will deal with emotional they'll get emotionally overwhelmed, and once they get emotionally overwhelmed, they don't hear anything anymore. They don't they don't see where you're going. They don't, you know. And quite often, though, when you get emotionally overwhelmed, it's because something has triggered you from the triggered something in the past.
Hmm.
And so the intensity of the emotions, it's what sometimes makes people feel overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed, and usually that overwhelmness, especially if they're avoiding, they can get defensive. Then
Hmm.
they'll get angry, and if you are not very patient with them because you feel at that time that they're avoiding you and doing it purpose, especially if they go over and over again, part of your aggregation always can be interpreted as being angry,
Yes.
and their anger then attached with your angeriness adds for both of you not being able to communicate well. And of
Uh,
course, from there, it becomes a disjointed
right.
communications that happens.
Yes.
And many times it doesn't really go any place from that end.
And then if
Yep,
there's
yep.
one of the other um, underlying sources
Hmm.
that's also coming into play, like the fear of conflict or something like that, and the emotions are getting high,
Hmm.
then you can run into the situation of shutdown,
Right.
emotional shutdown. And then nobody gets anything, nothing goes anywhere, when that happens. And so it's like if you don't deal with the underlying effects or the underlying reasons for avoidance, then it's kind of like building Jenga. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
ever played that before or not, but you build level on top of level on top of level, and every one of those things can potentially be pulled out and the whole relationship can fall
Exactly.
apart.
We just were
I was
watching this weekend. We were watching this weekend on a couple that's been married for 50 years, and they have took their time out to study couples in detail when
mm-hmm.
it comes to relationships, over 40,000 to be exact, and followed at least 5,000 over almost the lifetime or a long period of time of the relationship. And what they found out in their study when it comes to studying relationships is that for number one, they found out that 68% of problems that happen in a relationship don't get solved. I'll say
Yes.
it again, and we're almost finished,
Oh,
but I thought I'd make this
I
point.
know for a fact this.
68% of problems in a relationship don't at all get solved. So that doesn't mean that relationships don't continue on. It's just that means in that relationship, not everybody's going to get what they want as being right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you're going to either go on with the relationship or you're not. And that comes from an old saying that I got when I used to do some counseling some time back from some old counselors who helped me out in my counseling. And sometimes you heard the saying before, which is, do you want to be right or do you want a relationship? I'll say it again. Do you want to be right or do you want a relationship? That's a very important thing to know, that not all the time in the relationship are you going to win. Not
Yes.
all the time in the relationship is that problem going to be solved. Not all the time in that relationship are you going to get your way from that end. So you have to think to yourself, why am I in a relationship? What is this purpose for? Why are we moving the way we're moving? And those are the important things to do. Well,
And sometimes it's the hardest thing to do when you're in that situation and you know that your point of view is the right point of view, but still you need to swallow your pride on
Mm.
that one and just let it go,
Yeah.
because your partner could be feeling the same thing. But
exactly.
somebody has got to, you know,
I wanted I wanted to speak about a tactic. My
You,
last.
you're going to have to hold on to next time, dear. We are no more than 1 minute away. So, real quickly, tell us a little bit about where we can
and
find
write that
you.
down so that you don't forget it.
Exactly. Tell us
Okay.
a little bit where they can find you and where are you at in this world.
I am in Savannah, Georgia. You can find me at ICPORT Savannah on all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Okay. And I'm assuming your partner we can find her with you sometimes, right?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I thought. Well, to make sure you tell that husband of yours we said hello. Hopefully he did very good in his time on the first time on the job. Tell him we miss him at the same time. Until next time when we come back, we want you to take your journey together, be blessed. Make sure you stay on the line, Empress, so we can talk to you a little bit after we close out, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go.
Like this.